I started hounding Dave Kopay to come and speak. He was living in Seattle at the time. And he said, well, I'm going to move back down to Southern California. He goes, give me a call in a couple of years. So I did, and I tracked him down, and I stalked him for another year or so before he could commit. In 1978, Harvey Milk was imploring, begging people to come out. He said, if we can just come out, get people to come out, we could break down the stereotypes, we could put it into all the innuendos. 3 years before that, Dave Kopay did that, before anybody was imploring us to do that. He did it before Billie Jean King, before Martina Navratilova, and he had nobody to look over to, look to advise him, to ask him, or that he could ask for guidance, or, what did you do? What should I do? He had nothing. It was him out there all by himself, and that took a lot of guts. So anyways, if you will welcome Dave Kopay.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving up your time and coming here tonight. And Robert, thank you for hounding me and reminding me just why I spoke out many years ago, and just why. Some people have said that you make a living by what you get, you make a life by what you give. And that's what I've been trying to do all these years. I'm not a professional speaker, and I've never solicited any speeches anywhere, although I must say I've been very, very proud to do some of the things I've done. I couldn't believe when 1978, when the American Bar Association asked me to come speak to their group in Detroit and tell them why they should be writing laws to include gay people. Can you imagine? I mean, 1978. And it was also at a time when they were actually putting gay people in mental hospitals and giving lobotomies and doing horrible things, to gay folks. I was reminded that in a documentary done by the NFL Films about my teammate, Jerry Smith. And one of the guys testifying on that panel about Jerry, a gay man, who he wasn't so nice about myself either, and it was really harmful or painful to hear that. And I guess a bit of my life has been about pain, and it's continued to be, because I told Robert that I wasn't going to be able to be around very much, but then again, I'm thinking of moving to Los Angeles because of the difficulties I had trying to reach my mother down in Folsom, going back and forth to Seattle and trying to be a caregiver for her. And my mother went on for about 5 years. She passed away here October 27th, and since then, I've been a bit of a mess, but that's another story, and I'll get into that. But yeah, whew. I'm warm. I'm going to take this jacket off. Excuse me. Phew. Thank you. Whew. Anyway, I spoke out in reaction to a request by a woman that I never knew. I knew her daddy, who was the governor of the state of Washington, Governor Rossellini. When we went to the Rose Bowl my senior year, I got to meet him. And Lynn Rossellini was working with the Washington Star, and I was back in Washington, D.C., trying to get a business together to do NFL pub mirrors. Can you imagine having an idea to do NFL pub mirrors? And I got a great artist to do graphic NFL football players on a mirror with all the logos and all the colors. And I thought, what better to give all those latent football fans something to see. They can look at the mirror and see themselves and then get off on their team too, you know what I mean? Get all excited and revved up about their team. But it was such a huge effort. The NFL thought it was a great idea, but I didn't have the wherewithal to put all the pieces together, and I didn't have the business acumen to do that. And so I didn't continue on that journey, even though I wasted a lot of money. I haven't given a speech or a talk in quite a while, and it seems like I've been kind of consumed with being the second child, the second son in a family where the second son has kind of always been overlooked, and caring for my mother. My mother passed away here 4 months ago, and since then I've been back doing therapy, which I hadn't done in 40 years, and I think I'm making some progress. I went out and got a dog, and I'm telling you, that dog is unbelievable. I got it at the rescue shelter, and I lived with a dog very similar with my first partner in San Francisco when I met Harvey Milk in 1970. Actually, I met Harvey before that. I met him about 1979, I guess. But I was living in San Francisco, and we had a house up on Market Street, and it was just the most wonderful house. I rented this house from these old folks, and we fixed it up, and they loved us. And he got this border collie. Well, does anybody know about border collies and how driven they are? Oh my God, this dog is like unbelievable and just so much energy. And I have a lot of energy, and so we kind of mesh a little bit. But certainly, I didn't realize. And I've always been super sensitive too, by the way. That part of being gay is absolutely true. My sensitivity chart is off the table. I wonder why that didn't give me away when the National Football League took those personality tests, and I went off the chart on the sensitivity issues, you know. But I guess it didn't. And in those days too, we weren't making much money at all. It was, I think after 10 years playing ball, I made $25,000, including a playoff check when I was with the Green Bay Packers in 1972. So that's like nothing. I had bonuses better than that when I was working for my uncle in Linoleum City. My uncle, who hired me in the second or third day that I was there, after I was stacking these really heavy tile boxes, they must have been 60 pounds apiece, and working my ass off, knowing that I would eventually get to where I wanted to be, and that's to be the buyer and make that place hum, and we did make it hum. And when I retired with my pockets full, and it turned out to be a very, very good business, because most of the production designers and set decorators in Los Angeles just happened to be gay, or if they weren't gay, they were gay friendly, and this is way ahead of time, you know what I mean? I'd say I recently asked my cousin Fred, I said, how many you think of our best customers do you think are gay or bisexual? And I want you to think about that. And I says, so well, what do you think, Dave? And I said, well, I think at least 60 to 65% of our best customers. And he looked at me and he says, and this is a conservative Republican who I had lots of issues with, okay? So it was, and the ones who weren't were really on top of things and really supported our business. So my uncle knew when he hired me that he was going to hire someone who had a little bit of moxie and had a little bit of drive. And because, hell, I made it as a rookie free agent with the San Francisco 49ers when they had 50 free agents in camp and maybe 20 draft choices, and I wasn't a draft choice. So, I mean, he knew that I had a bit of get up and go. And my uncle was a World War II veteran and a wonderful man, eight kids, and certainly had seen the world and seen that gay people weren't so unusual even in the service, even in the World War II, you know what I mean? And it turned out that he died unexpectedly of a heart attack 2 years later, and I was crushed. But like the third or fourth day I was at the store, I'm stacking these boxes, busted my ass, and we're taking a moment, and he was kind of working with me, but he never did any of that heavy work, and he used to do it all himself when he got the business started. But he said to me, he says, you know, Dave, I knew you were gay when you were 12 years old, and I stood up for you at your confirmation. And I said, I wish the hell you'd have told me. You know? I wish the hell you'd have told me. And my Uncle Bill was a great guy. And you talk about, you know, a heterosexual guy, too. I mean, he was as heterosexual. But here he knew, and of course he knew. You know, I also happened to be that sensitive second child, you know. And he could never understand why I ran away to the seminary. As soon as I had the chance, when I graduated from St. Patrick's grade school in the 8th grade, in the 8th grade I went to the junior seminary, Dominguez Ranchero, and I was thinking, well, this is a good deal. I'm getting away from all the friction and fighting at home, and I'll have some peace and quiet, and everybody will really love me because I'm going to be a priest. And I thought, well, this will work out really good. Well, that wasn't all that clear thinking, because I didn't quite realize that I was just kind of growing into my body at the time. In fact, I was growing so fast, I had a disease called Osgood-Schlatter's disease, and you grew so fast. I think I was, how old were you when you graduated from 13 years old in 8th grade? I was 165 pounds, 5'11", and my knees wouldn't support me. So I had Osgood-Schlatter's disease, and I had to have my knees taped, and it was hell for me to go to confession to be on my knees and all that kind of stuff, you know, or being at the seminary on my knees all the time. And don't make any jokes about being on my knees all the time, because I wasn't even anywhere near that, okay? It's okay. It was okay. But Robert, your stick-to-itness and staying with me all these years, and I think I told you, you know, I've got to deal with my mom. She's in Folsom, and when I get down, and maybe I'll get down to LA, and all the time I'm getting colder and colder in Seattle, and I'm going, oh, geez, this rain up here. I love Seattle, and I'm really proud to say that I made a pledge to the University of Washington I'm going to keep, and I'm not necessarily going to be able to turn all the cash over to them, because all the cash has kind of disappeared. A lot of the cash has disappeared, not all of it, maybe a third of it. But I made a significant monetary pledge, and I have a home that's paid for, and I will be able to keep my pledge to the University of Washington, and I'm really proud of that. And now they totally love me up there, so that's another good thing. Besides being that I was their captain of their team, that we lost the game, but at least I was one of their captains. But the University of Washington always stood up behind me when I spoke out. They had me up there numerous times after my book was published, and Seattle always remembered me, and I have a great place in my heart with Seattle. I find I've done some formal speeches, and I usually follow a script, and I'm much more organized than I am right now, because I'm all over the place. But you know, I needed to be all over the place with the grieving process that I've endured with my mother. I kind of thought that I kind of had it all together with my mom, you know. Wrong. My mom was a woman that was a second child, and her sister was brilliant. And in fact, my mom was the only kid in her family out of 8 children that did not get a degree. And I'm talking about a woman that was born in 1914 and went through, her father dropped dead unexpectedly, and she raised, basically, her mother went to work, and she was the home caregiver at 11 and 12 years old, taking care of 8 kids. and wouldn't even be allowed to go to school. So she had this huge inferiority complex. And, but she also was a very, very driven, tough lady and smart. Up until the day she left her home, which was, not very long ago. She came down, when was it, about July 4th or July 3rd. I moved her into this rest home right near where I am, and it was a wonderful place, a Lutheran Solheim home, assisted living and skilled nursing place. Expensive as hell, but well worth it. And I've had this, love-hate relationship with my mom, and in fact, all us kids kind of did. And it's hard to, even though you think you have all the answers and you're being right or whatever, well, you're never necessarily 100% right or 100% wrong. And so it takes, and I've lost many, many dear friends with the AIDS crisis. And I thought I went through some grieving processes, but nothing ever hit me quite like my mother's death. And it's good that I got my dog, because really all I kind of talk about when I go to see the therapist now is the love I have for my dog. And my mother kind of gets in there a little bit, but I really talk about my dog. And this might shock you, a few of you folks. I don't know, I'm not here to shock you, but I named my dog Alex. Now, does anybody know why I might name him Alex? No. Think about it. Does anybody know a little history about myself? Yes, who said that? This lady right here. Way to go. Thank you, ma'am. Yes. Alex Karras. Now, I don't know how many real sports fans there are here, or even acting fans, but Alex Karras is absolutely one of the great, great football players I played with in 10 years in the National Football League, and I played with a lot of them, let me tell you. But Alex sticks out almost above everybody because he was such a human being and such a wonderful, wonderful guy. He died 2 years ago of kidney failure and maybe some lung problems. And Alex was... So every time I call my dog now Alex, I kind of think of my friend Alex Karras, who really saved my life. I was working at Linoleum City not even 2 years when a doctor walked up to me, the doctor that I recognized from the Detroit Lion days. Our head doctor, team doctor, who waited until the end of this football season in 1969, and then told me I needed to get operated on because I had torn ligaments and torn cartilage in my knee. This was a doctor. This was an orthopedic surgeon, head of Ford Hospital Orthopedics. Now you can't get any bigger than that. Yet he was on the payroll of the National Football League and the Detroit Lions, and he wasn't telling me that I had just rehabilitated a knee the year before with the San Francisco 49ers, and I played in 6 weeks. Now, it wasn't ligaments, it was cartilage. But ligaments is a bit more serious. But I still... So the knee that I had in Detroit was ligaments and cartilage. Yet he had me playing, or I tried to play, and I didn't get into it too thoroughly in my book because it would point the finger too much, and I didn't know this when I wrote my book, that the team doctor had kept this from me. He came into Linoleum City and admitted all this to me after I was working there 2 years and kind of really was working with the installers, the custom installers, and sending out guys to do inlay floors and do some really fabulous work. And he said, Dave, I moved here now to Pasadena with my partner, my lover, my ex-lover. And he had left his wife and 4 kids in Detroit, got divorced, and here he was living in California now. And he thought, well, I would just, forgive him. Well, if it wasn't for Alex Karras, and now I get to be reminded every time when I call my dog, and my loving dog, who's always seems to be there for me, of someone I love so deeply is Alex Karras. Alex was just so bright. Him and Susan Clark, had they did Webster, and Alex did Paint Your Wagon, and he did Victor Victoria, and he did a lot of movies. He was a great actor, and Susan is still a great actress. And nobody. Alex also was Paper Lion. I don't know if any of the real football fans in here, but the Paper Lion was a great George Plimpton story. And Alex made that movie, and I got in the tail end of that movie, but I got my scene cut out for overacting. So, and it was pretty stupid overacting too. So, but anyway, I've kind of revealed a bit of myself to you to get this thing started, and I want to make it a two-way street and have an open session, open question and answer session. But I also would like to tell you how I had to be driven to try to make the team when I did make the team in 1964, when all the odds are against you, And I was driven one day in the beach my folks lived in North Hollywood. I went to Notre Dame High School and was recently inducted into their Hall of Fame they just began, and I thought that was really cool. I'm not looking for a bow, but it's really, really important. But me getting inducted into their Hall of Fame, I made a statement, and I wanted that in my little statement that they had in the program. I know that I have made a difference. Well, they kept writing, I think I have made a difference. Well, let me tell you something. There's a whole lot difference between I know and I think. And Coach Lombardi used to tell us all the time. He'd get up on the board and he says, I know this play would work. He didn't say, I think this play is going to work. Well, no, he's going to know it's going to work. And that's what you do. If you know something, you know something, But anyhow, I'm glad Notre Dame at least asked me to be involved and be inducted into their Hall of Fame with some significant athletes. I'm having been part of that speed position that everybody's talking about these days. 96% of the guys who I played with, think of this, 96% of the guys that I can't say I played with, but played football with, have cognitive issues now. That's pretty terrible. And that's why they're cleaning up the game with some of the unnecessary roughness penalties and things that they're calling now. And I think they're all justified and they're really good. I'm going to get back to this little bit about. So here I am getting ready to go to training camp in the off season. And I knew that I needed to train almost all year around because that's what I really wanted to do. And I didn't really want to get another job because I had to be super in shape and on top of everything to just even make it, because my speed times were just borderline, so I was always like the best person in shape, and I got the nickname Psyche because I was always ready to go, And one day I'm up at Malibu in this glorious day, Zuma Beach, and walking down by Pirates Cove, this real private area that used to be in the late mid-'70s. It got restricted by the Coast Guards and stuff. It was a naked beach, free beach, and nobody ever paid attention for years. This was 1965 or 66 when I was there, and nobody could give a hell about people who were naked up there. It was very kind of out of the way and private, and who cares, It was gorgeous, and why not be naked, Are you embarrassed with your body? Are you embarrassed with yourself? It's like, wait a minute. So there's also a section further on down. You hike around all this lava basalt, and you see this in every ad you see on television. You almost see this big rock, and that's exactly where it is, and you hike behind that. And then the other side is the homes, but the homes were always up high. And so I hiked away from the nude beach side, and I'm going all about a quarter of a mile worth over basalt and stuff. And I get down to this other section, and up along the hills, there was a young fella, and I looked over, and I went, well, I wonder who that is. And I just happened to see he was from a long distance naked. But when I got over, just kind of to where he was just terribly scarred and disfigured. I mean, really disfigured. A lot more than all the loose skin hanging from me. But it was really badly, his face and stuff. And I said, oh my Lord, I thought to myself. And then he was writing on a piece of paper. And it was a brown paper bag. I went, wow, what's this all about, Now, but as I got over to him, I said, hey, what are you doing? He says, oh, I'm writing this poem, but it's no good. I says, well, how do you know it's no good? He says, well, I know it's no good. And he crumbled it up and kind of just threw it at me. And I went, oh, okay. I says, could I have it? And he says, sure, here. And I got in front of me, and I reached down and looked at it, and I started to read it for a minute and kept reading it, and I went, whoa. And it goes like this. Let me see if I can remember this, because this is, it goes, over the valleys of lighted treetops, the sun is the maker of all that is good. Here at the edge where living hell stops, nature's the ruler, you know that she should. People create and now they destroy. A vast contradiction, don't you agree? Who is to blame and what is the answer? It's so close, people, it's just you and me. Love and peace with a smile guides the way, for all of us a much better day. But thinking is all right and talking is worse. The way that is real is the way that is right. Can you believe this was some 15 to 16, 17-year-old kid writing this poem. The day that I went to talk to Lynn Rossellini, the day that I saw this article about Jerry Smith in the paper, and him being quoted anonymously, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not playing anymore. I can stand up, and because there was an article about gay folks in the National Football League, and none of them would refuse to be identified. And Jerry was one of them. And Jerry was superstar with the Washington Redskins. But he had his issues like we all did. But I was out of football now, remember. And I've been out of football 2 years. So I didn't have those issues anymore, and nobody would get me a coaching job. I had no interviews. It was terrible. And I knew I could coach, and I could coach better than a lot of those fellas. And so anyway, I had that up on my wall in a little apartment I rented in Washington, D.C., and it's still with me today. It's an amazing testament of what young folks can do, and something that kind of grabs a hold of whoever might read it. It sure grabbed a hold of me. So I have, I've never sought out one-page speaking engagements, but I certainly had a few of them. And why shouldn't I accept them when they came my way? But because I always felt that I shouldn't be getting paid for being myself. And there's another. There's another area that gets into, and that's certainly I don't have the expertise to talk about that, but that's another story.